Renzo Gang, what's happening? You already know what time it is. It's your boy Brian Renzo Viz. We are back with a part two of the insane Tekken lore. So I was investing in the first part. The first part it was crazy, and so far it's been accurate. I haven't seen nothing that wasn't accurate with the whole Tekken stuff. So we're just gonna keep diving on into this, and I really hope you guys enjoy my Tekken content because I'm personally going to be. I really want you guys to like really let me know if you want to see, you know, other, other video game content outside of Tekken. Once I'm finished with this one, this will probably be my last Tekken content for a while until I find till they do some more anime lores with different characters. So after this one, I'm gonna be finished with Tekken for a while, and you guys just let me know exactly what you want for like any other content. I'm gonna be posting, some polls on my channel, and you guys just go vote and which one you want. So with that being said, Renzo Gang, we're gonna get right on into this because like I said, I'm a probably do this into like three or four or maybe five parts. Who knows? Because this is pretty long. So with that being said, Renzo Gang, we're gonna dive right on into it. Well, we're gonna continue. Let's get it.
Little does he know, however, it's gonna take more than that to kill his old man.
Continue where we left off. Tekken 2, baby.
So 2 years have passed since the original Tekken, and Kazuya is
Mm-hmm.
now on top of the world. But like I said before, this man is not a good guy. His goal is world
He's
domination,
not.
and he uses the Zaibatsu in all kinds of nefarious ways to achieve that. Assassinations, drug dealing, kidnappings. The guy acquires all kinds of assets
Mm-hmm.
to build his empire. He even abducts Russian scientist Dr. Boskanovich and forces him to work on some pretty weird shit. I don't know
Yeah.
how or why Kazuya comes up with this. I only know that it was him and not his father. So he tells the Zaibatsu, I want you to poach as many animals as you can. Cheetahs, wolves, kangaroos. I don't want just an army of people. I want an
That's the
army
Tekken
of
2
beasts.
intro
And
thing you
so,
hear in the
through some mad
background.
science, Dr. Boskanovich creates the first transgenic
Roger.
military animal, Roger. A boxing kangaroo that's meant to impose fear in the enemies of the Mishima Zaibatsu. I'd like to imagine that because Boskanovich was a hostage, that maybe this was his way of messing with them, but even still, you don't get this far without supervision. It's pretty hard to take Kazuya seriously when
That's
his big
Paul
plan to
Phoenix
conquer the
stage
world
theme and
is
playing
to
in the
sick
background for
boxing
Tekken 2.
kangaroos against his enemies. But it gets even better because the second military animal would come from an extinct species. Using
Alex.
DNA pulled from fossilized insects, Boskanovich then applies his experiment to a full grown velociraptor. The man literally brought back the dinosaurs just so he could slap one with boxing gloves. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
shit, man, you'd think resurrecting dinos would earn you a pretty sizable chunk of change, but hey, what do I know? Now, these two characters are very jokey inclusions, but believe it or not, their existence
Very
is
pointless, in
critical,
my
just
opinion.
absolutely crucial to paving the way for the future. For Kazuya's animal poaching has caught the attention of the WWWC, a wildlife protection agency of which a certain woman is a
Jun
member.
Kazama.
That woman being Jun Kazama. If you have any passing knowledge of Tekken lore, you know what that means. If Kazuya hadn't tried to create military kangaroos, Jin Kazama would never have been born.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. In order to establish his dominance to the world, as well as eliminate his enemies,
Which is
Kazuya decides
accurate.
to sponsor the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2. It attracts the attention of the exact same cast from the original, as well as a few new faces like the Hong Kong detective Lei Wulan, a
The inspiration of Jackie Chan.
Taekwondo fighter named Beck, and a Muay Thai fighter named Bruce. The latter a bodyguard for Kazuya alongside Ganryu and Anna Williams. But
Mm-hmm.
hark! Be careful to
I
anyone.
don't know why Tekken 2 was always so terrifying. Like everybody, I don't know what it was about Tekken 2, like the animation and like it was more. Tekken 2 was probably one of the darkest Tekken games out there. It was just very dark.
Who dares enter this tournament, for it is rumored that Kazuya has made a deal with the devil himself.
He did
What I
it
find
before.
interesting when you look at the promotional material of this game is how the roles are reversed. Whereas before, the entire cast was surrounding Kazuya, now they find themselves surrounding Heihachi. The hero is now the villain is now the hero. How many sequels managed to pull that off?
Right.
It once again solidifies how fluid Tekken's morality is. Heihachi's not a good guy, but he might be better than Kazuya.
Yeah, when it came
Either
to
way,
ruling,
a lot of the stakes
yeah,
seem much
he was
more
better
personal
than
this time
Kazuya.
around. Yoshimitsu wants to save Dr. Boskanovich. Kuma wants revenge on Paul Phoenix. King has become a drunk because his orphanage is going under, and only with the support of Armor King can he pick himself up. One of the Jack units wants to feel emotion and identity, and actually saves a little girl named Jane from a war-torn battle. It vows to protect the little girl no matter what. Michelle's mother has been kidnapped by the Zaibatsu because of a certain medallion she has. A medallion that will serve a much bigger purpose in Tekken 3. And while she's dealing with that, she also has to be careful of Ganryu because the sumo wrestler has been madly in love with Michelle since meeting her in the last tournament. Apparently, he begged Kazuya to rig the game so that they would fight each other. Lee Chaolan decides to side with his stepbrother Kazuya, although it's not because of brotherly love. Ultimately, he wants to sabotage his plans with the help of Wang Jinrei. And Heihachi, well, the man has a lot of pride. He has spent the last 2 years training like a beast, knowing that his son has finally lived up to the Mishima name. He will not take him lightly this time. The stage is set, the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2 begins. So right off the bat, Paul defeats Kuma again. Heihachi faces off with Lee Chaolan and puts him in his place. He tells his adopted son that when I get the Zaibatsu back, your ass is out. Michelle defeats Ganryu, telling the guy, sorry buddy, I'm not interested. She also gets her mother back, as well as the medallion. Lei Wulon faces off with Bruce and emerges victorious. Lei found information connecting Bruce to the death of his old partner, but when he tries to pursue him after the tournament, Bruce's getaway plane crashes and he supposedly dies. Nina Williams enters the tournament to assassinate Kazuya, and whether she got defeated by him or by Anna, it's not...
Then on top of that, Bruce Irvin... Well, technically, Bruce Irvin, he was supposed to... It was something that happened in his plane that crashed. Kazuya orchestrated for his plane to crash, and Bruce ended up getting amnesia, so that's when Kazuya stepped to Bruce. Like, that was a little backwards right there, so... The real story is that Bruce Irvin, he threw a fight that, and Kazuya, something like that. Kazuya was behind it, where the fight that he threw, and Kazuya orchestrated for. He actually ordered for Bruce Irvin to be assassinated, and his plane went down. But instead of him, him dying, he actually survived, but he got amnesia. So that's why Bruce and Kazuya were, together.
Very clear. The point is that she suffers defeat, and Kazuya, being the absolute shithead that he is, forces her into a cryo-sleep chamber. He renders her unconscious to forever be a human test subject. It's at this point that Anna realizes that she doesn't want to live in a world without Nina, and so she asks to be put in cryo-sleep as well. And Kazuya's just like, alright, whatever, I don't care. The Williams sisters
really does not
together
care.
forever. But whatever cryo research is gonna happen, it'll happen without Dr. Boskanovich, because Yoshimitsu accomplishes his mission when he boards a helicopter that the good doctor is on. He takes out the guards and makes off with the scientist, slowly disembarking with his artificial propeller arm.
I'm very popular, y'all!
Meanwhile, Jack, one of Boskanovich's creations, is playing with the little girl Jane while something sinister happens overhead.
Dr. Abel.
A giant space cannon designed by a scientist named Dr. Abel aims specifically for the one Jack unit that's competing in the tournament. It fires off a giant laser that pierces Jack's neck and shuts the machine down. Jane, traumatized over losing her friend, dedicates the rest of her life to studying robotics. Now, I don't know how well Jun Kazama did in the tournament. All I know
She
is
didn't
that
really
she
care for
met
the
with
tournament.
Kazuya. And she's not just a wildlife protector. She's not just a martial artist. There is something about the Kazama bloodline that allows them to feel the spirits and energy all around them. And when
I
she
wanna
meets
know more on the
Kazuya,
Kazama
she
bloodline.
senses a sinister force. an evil aura that seems to be controlling his destiny. Almost like he's a good man, but there's some element that makes him do the evil that he does. And Kazuya, for whatever reason, is drawn to Jun. He finds her mysterious, her interest in him very intriguing. The two get close, very close. And at some point during the tournament, the two have sex. Yeah, these two should absolutely hate each other, but you know what they say, opposites attract. This is a PS1 fighting game. There are no scenes to elaborate on. Unless Tekken 8 or the Netflix anime series want to explain how this happened, you just have to take my word that Jun and Kazuya hit it off. Jun doesn't make much of an impact in the tournament. Hell, she doesn't even make it to the semifinals. No, that honor belongs to Heihachi and goddamn Paul Phoenix again. Yeah, for the second year in a row, he got that close to winning.
Phoenix is a
but
beast.
This time around, a gigantic traffic accident clogged up the expressway, and Paul was unable to reach his match in time. Loss by disqualification.
That was so messed up.
Paul, dude, this is why you show up early, man. Come on. And so it ends like it did before, with Heihachi and Kazuya. And during the fight, Heihachi discovers the evil force that Jun had sensed, because this is where players first get introduced to Devil Kazuya. He sheds his clothes to become a purple devil man who can fly around and shoot lasers out of his forehead. And this isn't the result of one of Boskanovich's experiments. This is a natural part of Kaz's being that's been there since the very beginning. The devil gene. A strange mutation that allows him to transform into a completely different being. But he doesn't keep his consciousness, as the devil is its own person. Devil Kazuya has a will of its own and completely different ambitions compared to its host. The devil only exists to kill, to destroy, to cause all kinds of pain and suffering.
It does.
It should also be mentioned that there's an angel in this game as well. Some kind of good side to Kazuya that acts as the final boss when you play as the devil. She only appears in Tekken 2, and aside from the tag spin-offs, she never comes back or gets referred to ever. But in case you were curious, Kazuya's good side is depicted as a blonde white woman. So hey. But none of this matters. Devil or no, laser beams or no.
I used to think that Angel was Jun Kazama back then before I knew all of this.
Mishima is the strongest man in the world, and he will air juggle your ass. Even with the scary demonic power, Kazuya loses to his father. Heihachi regains the Mishima Zaibatsu and once again proves his dominance. And thus he aims to rectify a mistake he made over 23 years ago. He shouldn't have thrown Kazuya into a ravine. Instead, he should have thrown him into a volcano. Yes, he picks up Kaz's unconscious body and chucks it into molten lava. Then he flies away by helicopter while the damn thing erupts in the background.
And then days later, he was resurrected.
Mishima is dead. Heihachi does not fuck around. With the devil taken care of and things returning to normal, the only trace of Kazuya left is his child.
Jun Kazama, Tekken 3, baby.
By Jun Kazama.
Tekken 3.
Tekken 3 is a turning point for the series in many ways. On the gameplay side, this is when it started getting really good. Faster combat, more fluidity, it all feels drastically better than the two games that came before it. And everyone took notice, which is why Tekken 3 is often considered one of the greatest PlayStation games ever made. But in terms of lore, this game changed the tone, the visual style, and even the time frame. Tekken 3 takes place 18 years after Tekken 2, where once Heihachi had black hair, he now has gray hair. Where once we followed Kazuya, we now follow his son. A new generation of fighters, a new era to unfold. A new energy had entered the franchise, and it has been intoxicating ever since. So the story kicks off in South America, where an ancient evil awakens from some ruins. This evil is the god of fighting known as Ogre.
I've always wanted to see him and Kazuya fight. Like Ogre and Kazuya canon-wise, not the Tekken tags.
Its origins are shrouded in mystery, with some theorizing that it was dropped on this planet by extraterrestrials. It speaks a weird language, it's a big muscular green man, and the only thing it lives for is absorbing chi of other fighters. I don't know how martial artist energies differ from ours, but Ogre does. And with the ability to sense this power, he travels all over the globe to battle. And this actually leads to casualties as Ogre finds King the Mexican wrestler and actually kills him. Oh yeah, did you think King in Tekken 7 was the same King in Tekken 1?
I always used to
No
think
way,
that.
Jose. Ogre beats the Taekwondo fighter Beck so badly that the dude ends up in a coma until Tekken
For
5.
years. Yeah.
Martial artists from all over the world start disappearing, leading to Detective Lei Wulan to open up a case for it. But by far, the biggest target of Ogres is Jun Kazama.
So
Ever since
I
Tekken
wonder
2,
what
Jun
happened
has
to her.
been
Did
raising
she
her son
die?
Jin
What?
in Yakushima, and she's trained him in martial arts, she's taught him good values, the importance of morality. But now something's coming. Because Jun can sense evil energies, she warns Jin that if anything ever happens to her, he needs to seek out his grandfather, Heihachi.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, Ogre shows up, trashes the place, and knocks Jin unconscious. When he
Like,
comes
literally.
to, both Ogre and his mother are gone. Aside from the non-canon tag games, Jun never comes back.
She never comes back.
Heihachi
I
is
don't know why.
intrigued by this ogre. He's always heard of it, but now the beast has finally woken up. If he could capture Ogre, study his body, study his blood, perhaps Heihachi could unlock that strength for himself. And Jin, his grandson, a chip off the old block. He takes to Mishima-style karate very well, convincing Heihachi that he would make for the perfect bait to draw Ogre out. And naturally, Jin is fueled with hate, fueled with revenge, desperate to fight Ogre once more. This would eventually lead to Heihachi starting the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. He still takes care of Jin and puts him in high school.
Yeah, he does.
The Mishima Polytechnic High School, to be exact. A facility that not only has framed pictures of Heihachi everywhere, but also a giant golden statue so that the students can worship him like a god. Again, I find Heihachi so damn fascinating because the guy is just so in love with himself. Anyone who can win the King of Iron Fist is given a trophy that is modeled after his own head. The dude literally has a bowling alley in the Zaibatsu headquarters with these trophies
Tekken
as
bowl.
the bowling pins. I tell ya, I would
Tekken
love to
volleyball,
have
Tekken bowl.
Heihachi as my grandpa.
No,
And
you
I'm not
don't.
the only one, as Jin goes to
No, you
school
do
with
not.
Ling Xiaoyu, a Chinese girl who's distantly related to Wang Jinrei. One day she stows
That's his
aboard a yacht
granddaughter.
belonging to the
That's his
Mishima
granddaughter. What do
Zaibatsu,
you mean?
And despite being a teenager, she single-handedly kicks all of the guards' asses. Heihachi finds this so impressive and so amusing that he agrees to take her as a ward, enrolling her into his school. And as a gesture of good faith, he also gives her a bodyguard. Panda! Specifically, a panda bear that knows Mishima-style karate.
don't know
why
how.
a panda bear? There's gotta be better and easier ways to give Xiaoyu protection,
real.
you know? This is the second time Heihachi's raised a bear. Actually, no, sorry, I have to scratch that. With the time jump, the original Kuma passed away of natural causes.
Yeah.
I
He
know,
was
that's
old, I
sad,
guess.
right? But don't worry, because Kuma had a baby cub, and that bear is also named Kuma. Yeah, Heihachi isn't a very creative person, especially
He's
when you
not.
realize that Kuma is the Japanese word for bear. Kuma may as well be exactly the same as his dad, down to the rivalry
Literally.
with Paul Phoenix. Although there is one difference. He's in love.
Panda. Panda.
Yes, Kuma is in love with Panda, who always rejects his advances. But I believe in him. One day he'll win her over. Besides being
One day.
Xiaoyu's best friend, Panda is also her method of transportation. And this bear must have a rocket jet up her ass because holy shit, Panda runs about as fast as Sonic the Hedgehog. I just can't
Stop.
with this series
Stop.
sometimes.
Don't disrespect
Jin
Sonic.
Kazama has done his fair share of fighting, though, and this earns him the rivalry of Hwarang. Hwarang is a Taekwondo fighter who served under Beck from Tekken 2, but with his master hospitalized because of Ogre, the kid's gotta let out his frustration somehow. He and Jin once battled each other to a draw, much like Kazuya and Paul before them. And you can bet that these two will be seeing more of each other as the series goes on. Eddie Gordo, one of the coolest characters ever.
I used to
Tekken
hate
3 was my
fighting Eddie
introduction
Gordo.
to capoeira. I had never seen anyone fight with dancing flair before. It was just so damn unique. Eddie was sent to prison years ago for the murder of his father, a crime he didn't commit. While behind bars, he met a capoeira master who agreed to teach Eddie everything he knew. Once he gets out of prison, he seeks out the Mishima Zaibatsu to help him find his father's killers. Brian Fury. Oh man,
One of
this
my
guy's
favorites,
a nut
Brian
job.
Fury.
Originally a
One of my
corrupt police
favorites.
officer in Hong Kong, Brian was killed when he got involved in a shootout. Dead. Finito. Deceased. That is until his body was recovered by Dr. Abel, the creepy scientist that took out Jack. If Boskanovich is the Dr. Light, then Abel is the Dr. Wily. Always feeling underappreciated by comparison, he vows to create the ultimate bad science that nobody can deny. And so he resurrects Brian with a cyborg body, all in the hopes of perfecting an army of super soldiers. As a cyborg,
glad Brian
Brian
took
Fury
him out.
is damn near invincible. Bullets bounce off the guy. He can shrug off artillery from a tank. The dude is now so strong, he can lift incredibly heavy objects and swing them around like it's Super Mario 64. Becoming a cyborg was the greatest thing that ever happened to the guy, because what Brian enjoys most is fighting. The thrill of battle, the satisfaction of
Kickboxing.
killing. When he wins a match in Tekken, he actually pummels the shit out of his downed opponent. This guy has
Die.
no chill, and if you see him in a dark alleyway, you'd be wise to get the hell out of there.
Yes.
The universe of Tekken works in mysterious ways. Ever since Ogre awakened and went on a rampage, another being came to life as well. Mokujin. Mokujin is a 2,000-year-old
Mokujin.
training dummy whose entire motivation is to eliminate Ogre. This is a unique fighter in that it mimics every
Never
other
knew
fighting
that.
style in the game, switching out how it plays every single round. I want to say that Mokujin is just a comic relief character because all of its endings are very
Literally.
strange. Like, apparently Mokujin has a giant big-breasted wife who mistreats him badly, forcing him on errands in a live-action forest. Also, he loves playing Tekken 3, which is an arcade in this forest. Duh? In one ending, he literally visits the Bandai Namco headquarters for a tour, flirting with all of the ladies who work there. All of this is canon, goddammit! And rounding off the roster, there's a few returning characters, but also a lot
Paul
of new
Phoenix.
generation types. Instead of having Martial
Forrest.
Law, we now have his son, Forest Law. Although, you know what's weird about that? From Tekken 4 onwards, Marshall returns to enter the tournaments, and Forrest doesn't. They establish
hate
that the
that.
son fights
What was the
exactly
point
like
of
the
that?
dad, and then they go, you know what? We like the dad better.
Yeah, what was the point?
King's still in the game, but it's obviously a different person. It's a boy who grew up in the original King's orphanage, mentored by Armor King to be his replacement. Michelle has retired from fighting, but she taught everything she knows to her adopted daughter, Julia. Julia's goal is to
Julia.
reforest her land when all of a sudden the Mishima Zaibatsu kidnapped Michelle and the medallion she recovered in Tekken 2. It turns out that this object that got Michelle's father killed apparently has the power to control Ogre. I'm not sure if Heihachi ever figured out how to use it. Remember Jane, the little girl that Jack saved?
Eventually,
well, after
Ogre wouldn't be
18 years
controlled
of
for
learning
long if that would've
robotics,
happened.
she manages to install Jack's consciousness into a new experimental body, thus
Gunjack.
creating Gunjack. The Williams sisters finally wake up from their cryosleep. Apparently, they sensed Ogre's presence and it jolted them awake. Very peculiar. Anna came out fine, but Nina emerges with amnesia. Other than her fighting and assassination skills, she doesn't remember anything about the person she used to be. What was the cryo machine's purpose anyway? The reason it was created in the first place was so that Dr. Boskanovich could find the solution to eternal life. Something he was desperate to acquire after losing his daughter Alyssa to an unexpected illness. Keep that in mind for the future. Yoshimitsu's looking to collect Ogre's blood to help with Boskanovich's deteriorating health, a plot point that is all but forgotten in Tekken 4 onwards.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Paul Phoenix is back at the ripe old age of 46, and he's looking to get the glory he could never attain.
Yeah.
So yeah, folks, that's the roster. The stage is set, Heihachi announces the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3, and I guess Ogre's just gonna show up. See, I've always wondered how exactly this whole thing works. The assumption is that the gathering of fighters will attract Ogre to them, but the final match also takes place in the temple that he came from. Is
Mm-hmm.
it empty? Is Ogre sleeping in there? Is the Green Monster Man honoring the results of the tournament, or does he coincidentally show up at the finals? I'd like to imagine that Heihachi used
Crazy.
Michelle's medallion to control him, but it also asks the question of why have a fighting tournament at all. Maybe
Right.
that Netflix Tekken series will help explain this a lot better. All you need to know is that it's a video game ass video game, and Ogre's the final boss. So first up, Paul
Final
Phoenix
boss.
defeats Kuma again.
Again.
Seriously, this is getting to be a broken record, but this is constantly established in Kuma's backstories. These bears just can't catch a break. Jin Kazama defeats his rival Warang. To be honest, this isn't outright confirmed, but going by the wording of Warang's Tekken 4 prologue and his attitude in his non-canon ending, it just seems like they definitely battled each other. But
Yeah.
of course, I could be wrong. At some point, Julia
He
manages
beat
to
him.
rescue her mother Michelle, and Eddie Gordo discovers that the man who killed his father
It's
is none
Kazuya.
other than the late Kazuya Mishima. Oh, and at some point, Dr. Abel activates his space cannon again in the hopes of trying to kill Gunjack like he did Jack 2. And this ending's kind of interesting. If you watch it as is in the
It's
Tekken
too
7
innocent.
menus today, you're getting the bad ending. The ending where Abel nukes the area so badly that it kills both Gunjack and Jane. For whatever reason, Tekken 3 gave Gunjack two endings, because if you beat the story mode a second time, the same ending will play out, except this time around, Gunjack spawns a force field that protects the two of them just fine. I don't know what the logic was there, but someone behind Tekken 7 obviously didn't know this, as only the bad ending is viewable. And that's about it. There's not much to go off of reading material from future games. The details of the tournament seem pretty ambiguous. But we definitely know how it ends. The final battle takes place in the South American ruins. It's Ogre versus Paul Phoenix.
Yep.
Yeah. Paul
Yep.
manages to hang in there until he comes face to face with the monster itself. It's a fierce fight between the
The
two
early
competitors.
the early Tekkens, Paul Phoenix was a beast. Like they after Tekken 3 is like Paul Phoenix, they really turned him to a joke. But Paul Phoenix definitely was like that. Like the dude was like that. Paul Phoenix definitely could have been one of the, like one of the main characters, like one of the best characters. He could have been the protagonist, but unfortunately, they had other plans for Tekken. So
But there can only be one winner. And that winner was Paul Phoenix!
Paul
I'm not
Phoenix beat
kidding.
Ogre.
That's actually
Believe it
the
or not, he
lore.
beat Ogre.
Paul went undefeated
He really
in the
beat
entire
Ogre.
King of Iron Fist Tournament 3, and even triumphed over Ogre.
The monster that killed King, that killed Jun, that put Beck in the hospital, the big bad of Tekken 3, taken out by the ultimate underdog. Incredible. Nowadays, Paul Phoenix finds himself as a bit of a comic relief character, always being put into silly situations.
Yep.
But in the 90s, this dude consistently made it to the finals of every single
I
tournament.
guess because he's
being
older.
on
I
equal
don't know.
terms with both Kazuya and Ogre. I love this aspect because sometimes it gets kind of boring seeing the same main characters take the crown. And Paul getting so damn close when he has nothing to do with them, that's the chaos I live for.
Paul's very
But
OP for a
I
reason.
have to burst the bubble and explain why he didn't win the tournament. You see, Ogre actually has two forms, and while Paul celebrated over beating the first, he didn't stick around to actually see the beast transform. And thus, Ogre becomes True Ogre, a gigantic winged snake-armed fire-breathing
Yeah,
abomination
that's the one that
Jin
Jin beat.
Kazama takes on. Now, Tekken 4 says that Paul was undefeated, so I have to wonder if he actually battled Heihachi and Jin, or if Ogre interfered before Paul could take Jin on. Either way, Jin gets the ultimate
And the
victory.
crazy thing is, True Ogre, he's called, the regular original Ogre, and the original Ogre, he's called Ancient Ogre. Well, you guys, I'm gonna stop it right here. This is a pretty, long. This is a long video. Like I said, I'm gonna do like probably two or three more parts, to finish up this video because it's a long one. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this reaction, and I will continue to finish up this one. And, this will be my last Tekken, content for a while until they start doing more Tekken anime lore. So whenever they start doing those, I will go back to the Tekken content. So with that being said, Renzo gang, I'm out. I will see you guys later. You feel me? Mm, yeah.